Did you manufacture that?
What?
Did you make that?
Yeah. Alright, so hi everyone, my name is Benoy, and I'm a double major in applied physics and the intensive music major. And I'm interested in the ways we can use technical disciplines with particular attention to electrical engineering, physics, and computer science, and how we can use these disciplines to change the way we as human beings, whether you're a composer, whether you're a performer, or whether you're a listener, how we as human beings interact and experience music. And this semester I've been working with Conrad and using a program called Max. So all these things that you'll see today, all these little gadgets and gizmos that I brought today, are things that I've made and things that I've interfaced with electronic music or electroacoustic compositions using Max MSP. And this is a website that I also started building in this independent study with Conrad. So it has all my projects here, and the cool thing is I actually have all of them here today. And so we're kind of at this point where electronic music and electroacoustic compositions have kind of become the norm. They're here to stay. But we kind of interact with all these electronic sounds through buttons, knobs, faders, which aren't really intuitive. And so I'm interested in using today's technologies to change the way we interact with these electronic sounds. So this little thing that I have here is a Leap Motion. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this device. Yeah. So it's a thing that you can get off of like Best Buy for $70, and it's basically, I'm just going to stop it from seeing me. It's basically like a Kinect, except that it's much more accurate than a Kinect, and it tracks my fingers like that. So you can see all my fingers. If I take my, yeah, it looks like that. I put in my fingers, I can turn them around, I can play piano with them. And there's all these really cool software that you can do like Fruit Ninja, like this, pick it up. Okay, cool. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is when you interface this with music. So here is a patch that I wrote in Max, and what it is doing, it is basically taking the data from the coordinate positions of my hands, sending it into Max, and the Max patch looks like that. It's like just basic processing. And then, simple. And then it will send it into Ableton. And in Ableton, I've made a little patch in Massive. I made a patch in Massive, and then I also made just a really, really quick beat. And it sounds something like this. So basically, what is happening is I've got the notes along the x-axis, and I've pre-selected the notes to just be C, D, E flat, and high C. And the Y position is changing the LFO rate. And I also did this, there's a video on my website, but I also interfaced this with some LEDs, which are not lighting up because the LEDs, oh, there we go. Doesn't matter, I'm not going to show those then. But I think I can show it from my website, that'll be better. I can do the same thing, but with LEDs and a Kinect. So here's me using a Kinect, but as I move around the room, see that the lights also change. So that's tracking the motion around in the room. So this is really cool because there's a very, very intuitive, a very, very tactile way of interacting with the sound. No longer do you have to use faders or knobs. You can actually use your hands. and control the sound in the same way that you would control an acoustic instrument. So for example, if you're playing a cello, you would actually control your sound using your hands where you're touching the string. We're trying to basically use these technologies to do the same thing. So with that in mind, not only is using the leap one way of interacting with music, you can also use bananas too as an input device. And they're right here. Just got them off their feet. And the idea is don't say it. Cool. So I'm just gonna split this. There. There. Stick that one there. Put that one there. And make sure I'm connected to ground. And the idea is you can go. You get the idea. So that's using bananas. I don't know if you guys can see. Sorry, that was kind of blocking the way. I should move this. Can you guys see the bananas? Yeah. Oh, maybe I should move it. Maybe like here. All right. This is better. So. So you do stuff like that. So if anyone ever says, MIDI controllers are too expensive nowadays, you can say, hey, you can use bananas instead. Cool. So next. So this is one of the other kinds of inputs that you can do. And I've also been interested in building my own controllers and not just using sort of bananas that are sitting around in the dining hall. So this is a little hemispherical controller that I've been making, which for me, I tend to prefer this over the more square-looking MPC, simply because it's curved and it's a lot more ergonomic. And here I will demonstrate it. Dude, A+. Oh, no, it's the same problem. So the way that I'm getting the buttons to talk with Max is through Arduino. How many of you guys have played with Arduinos before? Cool. So all this is doing, if you recognize the Arduino code, is just basically querying the button states. And I'm just going to, oh, right, it's not connected. That's why. There we go. Yep. Oh, sorry. How much time do I have?
About 5 minutes.
Okay. That's dope. Let's. Alright, I think I'll just show the video for this one then, because it's not working. But this is the hemispherical MIDI controller, and you can basically play some pretty cool beats on it. It sound like this. Oops. Oops. Alright. And that's using basically using Max to process data coming from a Arduino board so that you can translate into MIDI messages and then send them into Ableton. Now the next thing that I want to show you is using Max as a for signal processing. This is a granular synthesizer, and the way a granular synthesizer works is we need to set up all the audio Is that right? Should it now sound? Why is it not sounding? So basically what is happening here is I have a piano sample that's been loaded in there, and granular synthesis, you can just think of it like basically looping of the sound and using short loops of the sound to create new textures. So here, I'm looping the piano sample, which sounds like this on its own, but I'm looping it many times. And you can change parameters to create sort of different, you can change, so you can use that to sort of create a new sound, and a lot of ambient compositions use this to their advantage. So this is a typical granular synthesizer, and basically I'm just using a solid wave function there to generate when the grains are being triggered. It's more interesting when you combine that with the leap motion, which is what I've been doing. And here I will use the leap motion to trigger oh. Cool. So this is the same thing. It's a granular synthesizer, except that now I've augmented it, and I'm using the position of my hand to scrub along the sample, and I can trigger each of the 5 grains with each of my fingers. I can even record a new sound. So here's a flute that I'm making in the CID. And it's based off the Thai traditional kui, which is the Thai flute. And here's some others that the professor I'm working with, Professor Larry Willen, is making. So you can pass these around if you want to see. I'm going to play with this one. So I'm just going to record myself doing that. And then I can now granular synthesis using gestural control. And next up, I started building a hemispherical speaker. And the reason that I was interested in why would you build a hemispherical speaker in the first place? Well, number one, it looks pretty cool. And another reason is because when you're writing electronic songs and they're coming out of 2 speakers like this, and you're writing, let's say, for a chamber setting, these 2 speakers usually overpower acoustic instruments. And so when you have the sound coming from one source like this, it's more like an instrument. Because if you have a cello and you have a violin, the sound is coming from the violin, but it's not coming from like these 2 massive speakers. So having a hemispherical speaker allows any kind of electronic sounds to sound and interact with acoustic instruments much more naturally. And I've been interested in doing things such as, let's skip to this one. So this has 6 independent channels, and what I'm doing here is okay, cool. So I have my right hand doing what you just saw before, which is the granular synthesis, except now my left hand is controlling where the sound comes out from the speaker. You can see if I move my left hand, I'm actually changing the position of that cursor. So here it's coming out of the second rightmost speaker there. Here it's coming only out of the top. And if I start triggering the samples, I can actually localize in space where I want that sound to go, which is kind of cool. I think it's kind of cool. And it's still a little bit the leap motion, this is now limited sort of by the leap motion, because when I start to have my two hands interacting like this and I start to cover them like that, then there's only so much the sensor can detect because I have one hand blocking the other. But given that I can now use both my hands to control this aspect of electronic sound is really fun and exciting. And to think that, so where I want to take this now is, imagine if you had maybe an array of these speakers and you're able to actually position sounds in a room. So you have a piece of electronic music that's not coming out of two speakers, but the hi-hat is literally here. The bass kick is literally positioned here in space, and you can dynamically move and change the position and the way the sound sounds using sort of human interaction, using your gestures to control the sound, which I think is more natural and makes a much more fun experience when you're doing electronic music. So yeah, any questions?
I just have comments. Well, A, I think you can make a lot of money off of this. Everybody wants this. This is awesome. And B, I know you're all about Stanford, but I'm sure you know about what Todd Mackover has been doing at MIT.
So actually, well, I'm videoing this and this is my mic, but anyway, I really want to go to Todd Mackover's lab for MIT. And one of his things, one thing that he said that really inspired me in one of his TED Talks, Todd Mackover said, music is a really important part of all of us, and it's even more fun when you can create it. And we're all composers, we all know that creating music is even more fun. And we're at a really, really fascinating point in technology, because using sensors like this, where people, not necessarily musicians, can come in and use their own hands, their own bodies to interact with sound and create music, opens up a lot of new possibilities. And so that's why I find this kind of thing really exciting, because the dubstep thing, for example, I just had a bunch of my friends over at a party one night, and all of them were just like, "This is so awesome! Wait, I can actually play dubstep! Whoa!" So yeah, the stuff happening at Stanford and the stuff happening at MIT Media Lab is really cool, and that's the sort of thing that I want to do later on.
So feel free to go up and talk.
Yeah, feel free to come up and play.
Leave, go up and ask some questions and take a look at what he's doing.
There's the sensor.
I need to see Dominic and Daniel and you.
What exactly are the bananas doing?
The bananas, I can actually just touch the wires directly.
Are they conducting?
That's not really fun.
Oh, okay. So they're just conducting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can use.
Why bananas?
Just because they're. I can use just because they're fun.
Oh, bananas.
Nice. How are they?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I made this out of salad. It's also made out of salad.
You can try it now.
You can try it.
I've tried it already, so I don't want it.
You can hear the sound moving around this.
Hearing things out.
Maybe not the
Actual
dubstep
recording
stuff.
Exactly. They're so nice.
Yeah, I mean, you got more questions.
Have great bread.
Figure out a way to
I'd love to.
So cool.
Yeah, of course. So it's like a basic button.
I'm glad I said that out loud.
So this has 12 digital inputs. You want to cover the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.